Should one stud running back actually be benched this weekend in the FFPC Main Event Championship round? What effect is Dorian Thompson-Robinson going to have on the rest of the Browns pass catchers? And what should Fantasy Pros Championship round participants expect from the new Michael Penix-led Atlanta Falcons? Plus, 12-time FFPC league winner Tommy Herrin is going to rejoin the show for discussion on Tyjae Spears, Kendre Miller, and so much more. Hey, we've got a great show for you tonight. Ferrell Elliott is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Can't stand the pressure. I've seen greater men than need a lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man. Nobody ever told me what a man was.
An early Merry Christmas to everybody out there and happy holiday season's greetings here from us at the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Thank you, Rob, for that lovely introduction here tonight. Greetings, salutations, hi, hello. Hi, how are you? Welcome. This is the HSFF Hour. It's the latest episode. All of you Balkaholics and Ferrelliacs are in for a treat tonight because we're going to give you the best possible advice that we can regarding the FFPC Main Event Championship round and the Fantasy Pros Championship round, as well as the KFFSC Main Event Championship round, as it is championship season for sure. This is the HSFF Hour presented by the Fantasy Football Players Championship over at myffpc.com. I, of course, as always, am your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. Don't forget about the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Ferrell Elliott. I'll bring him on shortly. Coming up on tonight's show, Ferrell and I are going to dish on everything that's going on in fantasy football this weekend, all the tough starts and sits that you have to figure out, including but not limited to Jerome Ford without Nick Chubb, Brenton Strange, a hot waiver wire pickup over the last couple of weeks in the FFPC. What should you expect from him and much more? And we'll also be joined by the 12-time FFPC Main Event league winner, Mr. Tommy Herrin. Tommy Island himself will pop aboard in about 13 minutes here on the show. If you want to connect with us, you can do so at HSFF Hour, at Eric Balkman, at jferrellelliott on X, KFFSC.com, and of course, highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com is the email address. You can send those questions in. We'll try to get to all the X posts, emails, and everything in our fantasy feedback segment coming up later on in the show. Thanks to our audio engineer and my best friend Bryce and our producer and mutual friend Rob. The FFPC is, I don't know if I mentioned this last week because I had a lot of internet issues going on last Friday night. And I may have forgotten to say this, but I can tell you right now, the FFPC World Famous Playoff Challenges are live right now at myffpc.com. You can enter for $35 and be eligible for a $100,000 grand prize. You can enter for $200 and be eligible for a $500,000 grand prize. myffpc.com is ready to go. Remember, there are no drafts. There are no salary caps. You just put together the lineup, one player per NFL team in the playoffs. Now, again, we don't know who they are yet, but I would definitely get those teams signed up and registered for because the NFL playoffs will start about 3 hours earlier on that Saturday, which means people understand this, which is why the spots have been selling out. Not selling out, but the spots have been selling faster than normal this year because you want to make sure that you don't get left out in the cold. While you're signing up for the world famous FFPC Playoff Challenge, check out the weekly challenge, the Week 16 weekly challenge going on at myffpc.com. Same format, no draft, no salary cap. Build your team, only one player per NFL team on those squads. $35 or $200 to enter. Win up to $2,500 this weekend. 10, 30, and 100 team contests. You can play with or without kickers and defenses. It's totally up to you. myffpc.com is where to go for that. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live. We're going live with one of my good buddies tonight. He is the head honcho over at the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship, and not a bad high-stakes fantasy football player himself, the incomparable and definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Ferrell Elliott. Ferrell, welcome in tonight, man.
That is a mighty fine introduction, and I blush in humbleness. And anyone who would like to replay, I think back to last week, and when we asked for who is the sleeper, and then what player is going to be the real dud, the player that you don't want in your lineup, our guests should have answered anyone who you promoted, Ferrell, anyone who you were promoting last week should. I think we told people not to start the Buffalo running back. I think we might have told people to start Amari Cooper. We said Pollard in front of Spears. At least I did. It was a humbling week. Let's just put it.
But I trust the process on this, and I don't know exactly what happened, Ferrell. Maybe you have an explanation for it. I knew Amari Cooper didn't do much as I was watching that Bills-Lions game. I was flabbergasted to find out after the game, not one target, not one GD target to
and how many GD targets came the week before?
I don't know, to be honest.
Maybe he complained he was getting too much work. I think he had double-digit targets the previous week. It was just,
And I think what baffled me too was it was 90 points in that game. His team scored 48, and he did not get one target. Ferrell, on the season, I'm looking at Amari Cooper's game logs here. He did have 14 targets the week before against the Rams.
Yes.
Before that, 3, 2, and 5. Okay, not great, but still more than 0. Yeah. But I mean, even with the Browns this year, 6, 10, 8, 12, 8, 9, and then 0 against the Lions. Do you have an explanation for this? I've been searching for one. I haven't found one. It's got to just be an anomaly. Can't happen again, or can
it? Well, I tell you what, if it does happen either way, he's not going to be in my lineup.
Nobody's going to be surprised by it anymore.
No goose eggs. They all can't play like the Gladiator.
Yes.
What McConkey is just having. What a year they guys have.
Ladidi Mekake, or Mekaka, Mekonka, whatever Michael Key called him on Rich Eisen show. The Bills are 14-point favorites this week, Ferrell, against the New England Patriots in a total of 46.5. Wouldn't surprise me at all to have a James Cook, Ray Davis game that get far, far away from Amari Cooper this week. That would be the best piece of advice we give you all night. But stay tuned for much more, because Ferrell and I have much more to discuss.
We're going on the bounce show. Back. It's a bounce back week.
Bounce back week. We're going to be discussing Brian Robinson, Jerry Jeudy, and so much more. I want to lead things off tonight with your Raiders, which means I got to pull this out. Thanks to John Terry. Pull this out. Put on my Raiders chain here tonight as we're getting into the Raiders conversation to lead things off tonight. Shout out to John Terry for that lovely piece of jewelry. Antonio Pierce, according to Paul Gutierrez, told reporters that Aiden O'Connell should be good to go for Week 16 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, this is an improvement over Desmond Ridder, obviously. You saw Jacoby Myers last week, Ferrell, kind of be invisible most of the game until they needed to make plays at the end of the game. And Myers was there making plays. In fact, almost caught that Hail Mary right at the end. Got 2 hands on the football, just couldn't pull it in. Jesse Bates was just in a little bit better position to make the pick. But I think this is interesting, not for Brock Bowers, but for Jacoby Myers. A lot of people were ready to bench him in the championship round. They weren't flexing him out. But now O'Connell comes in. It makes him more intriguing. And I think you almost break ties in favor of Jacoby Myers, because we know O'Connell is talented enough to make Brock Bowers the number 1 tight end this week and make Jacoby Myers a top 25 play at wide receiver too, in my opinion.
And as wonderful as Bowers has been, it seems like that offense has leaned on it and targeted Myers when he is the proverbial go-to guy, no matter who's at quarterback. And it was difficult. He had a hard time shedding some of the coverage in last week's game. I believe in Myers. Boy, do I believe in Bowers. And after that, you just got to get out of business with the Raiders, even the kicking game.
Who is the kick? Oh, Daniel Carlson. You don't like Daniel Carlson?
I love him, but I'm getting out of it.
Okay,
because there's just not. They got to move those chains to get him in position, and then they got to not be playing from a chaser position. And this is a game that they got a chance to win, and so maybe I'll walk back on that a little bit. But I don't think I don't think discussing kickers is going to make a difference to everyone that wants to win this championship, but sure is nice to watch Dicker, go out there and nail 6-point kicks.
That was great. That was fantastic. And we hadn't seen a free kick in 50 years, and we got to see one last night.
Why do we not see more of those?
Well, isn't it kind of a rare situation for it to present itself? I don't think I think Harbaugh made the right call by doing it, but I don't think that a lot of players a lot of teams have the opportunity to do it, right?
I guess not.
I mean, because to me, if you got a good enough kicker, then fire that baby up.
The rule is essentially you fair catch the punt and then you can have a free kick. Is that right?
I don't know. I'm taking it from the word from your mouth. I was trying to understand what was going on Thursday, and I thought I got it. Then I don't think I got it, so I don't know. But it was fun, and it was great to see. Tom Smith has a question right now from the YouTube chat. Breaking news earlier this afternoon, Aaron Wilson, who covers the Houston Texans, has announced that the Texans have signed Irv Smith to their 53-man roster. So Irv Smith or Kyle Pitts this week, Ferrell? That's the question. We have Pitts or Irv Smith on the Texans. Remember, Brevin Jordan out for the season with a torn ACL.
Irv may not get a jersey, Tom. Let's go with Kyle Pitts. Now, he'll be on the 53, but he may not get a jersey this week. Kyle Pitts will be in a jersey, and, it's a new era in Atlanta, and you don't want to be wish I had. You definitely don't want to be FOMO with your fear of missing out, Tom. Go ahead and let's sneak Kyle Pitts in the lineup.
Long-time viewers of the show thought there was no way Balky would be able to sneak in Irv Smith in 2024.
Yeah, it's good.
Onto the program.
Tom Smith helped.
But it happened.
Could be a relation.
Let's talk about the Jets here, Ferrell. And I might be reaching on this, but I think, in the championship round, you want to make sure all bases are covered.
Okay.
Zach Rosenblatt reported today, I believe for The Athletic, that Breece Hall is no longer on the injury report. He is going to play Week 16 against the Rams. This is the first time in a few weeks that he's been off the injury report entirely, so makes you feel good about his injury status. However, in his stead, and when he hasn't been healthy and when he hasn't been playing, Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis have made some waves, especially Isaiah Davis, who's been scoring touchdowns for the Jets this year. Last week, 9 carries, 30 yards for Breece Hall. He only caught 2 passes. I would expect more from him this week, Ferrell. But for the people who do have Breece Hall, and I brought this up on Fantasy Mojo's website because I knew you were going to ask me this. You're going to tell me, Balky, nobody who has Breece Hall is in the championship round. It's not possible.
Yeah.
And while you are close to being right, when you hypothetically said that to me, but you didn't, in the main event, he is only owned in 7% of championship round teams. In the Fantasy Pros Championship, owned on just 6% of those championship round teams. For the people who have Breece Hall this weekend, do they need to think twice before locking him into their lineups? Do they need to just make absolutely sure that he is the better call over some of these other running backs that might provide, that you might have on the same team as Breece Hall, that might actually be better plays than him? Bucky Irving, Rico Dowdle, Chuba Hubbard, Jerome Ford, Tony Pollard, all players that were drafted after Breece Hall, all players that could have better weeks than him this week. How long and hard are you thinking about starting Breece Hall at home against the Rams in Week 16?
If I'm one of those 6 or 7% of teams, I figured out a way to get there without Hall, and I'm going to keep my hot hands in the lineup. That would be because it's a first-round pick, and don't you think? First round pick. So he was their guy. They figured out a way to make it there without him, and good for them. So they had somebody that's going to contribute better than Hall and be a safer play. So I would continue to have Hall.
So here I was thinking I was the crazy one for even suggesting that Breece Hall should not be in lineups. And you're saying Balky, he should not be in lineups this week. If you made it this far without him, you clearly have better options. Okay.
There is Alvin Kamara. If Alvin was one of your running backs and you had to start Hall, that might make sense. Pollard is you don't have Spears. there's situations that could get there, but those teams are so good that they've probably got those situations well in hand. And I would guess, it would be fun to look at those teams and just see how many of them drafted heavy running back.
Oh yeah, for sure. Heavy running back I wish I would have done heavy running back this year.
Everybody does.
And
except in August and July. Then
nobody does.
No, they did then. But now
it's different. It's a different story. The Cleveland Browns have made an unfortunate switch at quarterback for fantasy players this week. This is the week we're all waiting for. Jameis Winston against the sorry excuse of a defense that the Bengals have. The total would have been, they couldn't have set the total high enough in this game.
63.
63 would have been too low. So now it's Dorian Thompson-Robinson. And I get what Cleveland's doing here. I don't know if they necessarily think Winston is figuring into their future plans at all. I think that the ownership, coaching staff probably thinks that they can still make and form a future NFL backup, at least in Dorian Thompson-Robinson, whose numbers have been dreadful at this level so far in his career. However, this is about the softest spot you could pick to bring him in. And this is a way to build his confidence. We have to deal with it as fantasy owners. I want to ask you about David Njoku. He is questionable for this game against the Bengals. Limited practice today. That was the only practice he had all week. When you think about David Njoku and tight end premium scoring, if this dude is active and he's catching passes from DTR, Ferrell, are you still finding him a way to wedge him into your lineup?
I'm not the best to ask this question, Balky. I would throw it back to you. I've never been an Njoku fantasy player, a fan of him as a fantasy player. I'm a big fan of the athlete, and I love watching him play. But I just don't fall for enough targets, enough play, enough offense. And when Jameis came in, I thought, well, maybe he'll be a different kind of fantasy player. And in some weeks, he certainly has. Let's go back to the quarterback, and we say why. This can happen when you put together a team that's operating in the margins. And, they've lived with this young quarterback. He's been in the meeting rooms. He's been in the preseason. Mm-hmm. Our team's not going anywhere. We know what we've got in Jameis. Let's give this guy a chance to play. And you're right. They picked a place for him to play that should be a soft opportunity for him. And he has not played well. And so, I hope he's made strides. He's had a whole year to prepare running that scout team. And, sometimes it takes players a long time to get it. Maybe now he's soaked up whatever knowledge there is in the quarterback room in Cleveland and is ready to give it a roll to be a pro.
I think that'll be something that we're watching very closely this week. Maybe not necessarily for the development of DTR, but Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, Cedric Tillman potentially, and David Njoku, who, by the way, since you threw it back at me, I'm benching him this week. I don't like him, even in tight end premium scoring. I don't like him at all. I have very little faith that he is going to even catch a pass in the end zone or happen to catch a pass in the end zone. I think there are better options out there, especially in the championship.
He's fantasy green eggs and ham to me.
Yeah, that's and I would not eat him. In Cleveland, I would not eat him in Cleveland with DTR throwing to him. No, I would not. Bulky, I am. Last thing I want to get to before we bring on Tommy Herrin is the Falcons making a quarterback change this week as well. Speaking of a soft spot, they get the Giants this week. Mark Raimondi, who covers the NFL for ESPN, says the chances that Kirk Cousins returns to the Falcons next year as a backup seems slim. They could save cap space by trading him. But they are taking on either a $65 million cap hit next year or a $40 million cap hit in 2025 and $20 million in 2026 if he's a post-June first release. So this genius, all these people that were saying, oh, it's so genius to sign Cousins and draft Penix. I think once this cap hit hits, those people might have a different take on this whole situation here. So you talk about Cousins going to the bench. I think I'll ask you this because I want to make sure I'm right in thinking this seems like a permanent thing. I don't think they go back to Cousins anymore this year. I don't think they go back to Cousins next year. I think this is Michael Penix's team going forward. So what do you think? How does that change Drake London? How does that change Kyle Pitts? How does that change Bijan Robinson, Darnell Mooney, so on and so forth? Is it significant? Is there no change for you in the way you're treating these guys in your lineups this week, Ferrell?
It is significant in the fact that Cousins has played so poorly, and sometimes the players just hit the wall. He was injured. There were people that we talked to at Planet Hollywood, and sometimes in the show leading up to our live draft there, people would say, I'm just not sure Cousins is healthy. It looks like he's had some reoccurrence of his issues, and the throwing motion is off, and it's just bad. So yes, this is very much an upgrade from the fact we won't see Cousins again is if he's injured, a lot of this contract they'll have to cover.
Yeah.
If they let him go, it's about $100 million hit total, but that's worse than having to. That's not as bad as having to cover this full contract if he is injured. So I think it's past time for Penix, and I'm interested to see what he does. We've had the Pitts conversation last week. Drake London, we have to buy into the fact that this is a pro receiver and one of the best receivers in the game. So let's don't bench him. Mooney has got to get open underneath. I think this player, Penix, will be able to extend the plays and run around, which is something the offensive line, especially since they're calling these illegal receivers downfield, or illegal player downfield, they're going to have to get away. They're going to have to get in their heads a completely different play style. But I think the receivers will welcome it. I think everyone there is I think from a fantasy standpoint, let's stick with your guys. And you, as a fantasy player, there's no advice we can give you. Pitts, you've either decided to live with it or not.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing we are saying on the show tonight is going to change your mind on what you're doing with Kyle Pitts.
But don't if you've been relying on Mooney, and God knows you've been relying on London, but don't bench them just because this quarterback's coming on.
Right, exactly. I am with you 100%. I don't think this. If it's a downgrade, it's marginal. I think there's so much more upside. I'm much more excited about these guys in Atlanta as I am than I was with Kirk Cousins. Let's talk about our guest tonight and bring him on and see what he thinks about this situation and so much more. He's been on this program before. You probably remember him. He is a 12-time former FFPC League champion in pursuit of a pair of $1 million grand prizes in both the FFPC Main Event and the Fantasy Pros Championship, and in the thick of it in the KFFSC Main Event as well. You follow him on the X at Tommy Island 69. Please welcome back onto the show, Mr. Tommy Herrin. Tommy, welcome in. Season's greetings, and thanks for hopping aboard tonight, man.
Hey. Happy holidays, gentlemen. How you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. How are you?
Look at that bar, man. Look
look at that.
All that. That's not hair tonic, Balky. That's the real stuff back there. I see a Jameson bottle right over Tommy's left shoulder.
We got Maker's Mark back there.
There's a Sinatra back there that Jeff Etley gave me. You know Jeff. He gave me a little Sinatra back there.
Oh yeah, there you go. Do I see a whistle pig or am I seeing things?
No, that's an Angels.
Okay. Oh yeah, Angels Envy. Yeah, there you go. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so now we got the bourbon discussion out of the way tonight. Let's get into the fantasy football conversation. Tommy, I went through some of your teams. I don't know, some of these players that you own on a lot of teams. I don't know how many of you of them you own on teams that are doing very, very well and are in pursuit of this $1 million grand prize. But a lot of these questions tonight are going to be about players that you've either drafted or acquired. And two of the tight ends that I noticed you had on a bunch of teams are playing each other on Sunday Night Football. Now, in the FFPC, maybe you start both of these guys, but if you only have one roster spot, who are you playing this week? Is it Jake Ferguson hosting the Buccaneers, or is it Cade Otton, who might be a game-time call, on the road at Dallas?
Yeah, no, it's Fergie. And regardless of – and I love Otton. Otton is those couple weeks that he gave has been worth every ounce of every share that I got of him this year. So because he's over-delivered. But it's Ferguson this week, the matchup against Tampa Bay. Tampa's not good against the tight end, so that's a great matchup for Ferg, even with Cooper Kupp. So, and then throw in that Otten's probably not going to play. So it's an easy decision for me. Yep.
That is an easy decision. It's not such an easy decision in Tennessee unless they tell us Pollard is headed to the bench, and he might not play. Tajay Spears answered the bell and provided everyone that has been speaking of him in positive light, provided all of them validation. What are you doing if you have Pollard and Spears? And how strong is your belief in Spears? What we saw last week is what we can count on?
Hopefully. Look, Spears is a guy that I've been back and forth, or I've been in on for a long time. But obviously this year has been kind of a dud. He's left some skid marks out there along the way because he hasn't produced. He hasn't been out there. He showed so much last week. I'm considering playing him over Najee Harris in the league. That's what I'll tell you. So to put that in perspective, to me, if Pollard's in, I think he's a flex option. If Pollard's out, he's a solid running back too. And honestly, I think he's like a poor man's Chase Brown. And by no means am I comparing him to Chase Brown. What I'm saying, he's explosive and he can make big plays. And because Chase Brown's one of my favorite players this year and one of my MVPs of the fantasy.
Based on my fantasy play, Tommy, I really thought that I had possession of the term poor man's player. I thought if anybody's going to use that, that's what it is. It should be me because but
well, you're not a poor man, so you
I got a lot of poor man players. Balky's going to now ask you for a player. We have to talk about this player every week. And this is the poorest man's player. Go ahead, Balky.
Well, okay, so he's in a poor situation right now. Definitely. The New Orleans Saints, I believe, are holding open tryouts before they head on up to Lambeau Field because they need warm bodies. Now, one of these guys that is probably going to be starting for him, I believe, and Tom Smith is all over this in the YouTube chat. I do believe Alvin Kamara has already been ruled out this week, so you would think Kendre Miller is going to be starting for the Saints at Lambeau on Monday Night Football. The reason I bring him up is because we have seen flashes from him before. We know that the Rizzler himself, Darren Rizzi, the new head coach or the interim head coach of the Saints, likes him a whole hell of a lot more than Dennis Allen did. And now this could be a potential for him to break out. The Packers DVOA for their defense has been in the top 10 over the last month or so. So it's not the greatest matchup. It's definitely a negative game script. However, if Spencer Rattler is checking the ball down to Miller, he could PPR himself into a decent week this week. I think we have to start talking about Kendre Miller as potentially a second running back or a flex. I'm going to throw him out there and pit him against Ramondre Stevenson, who's taking on the Bills in, again, another negative game script for Stevenson as their 2 touchdown underdogs to the Bills. Who would you rather play between Miller and Stevenson this week, Tommy?
So I'm playing Ramondre. And look, Buffalo's not been good defensively, and we know that, and they might fix that, but they haven't been good versus the run. And you wouldn't know that. You think about the Bills, you think they're great against they're great defensively, and they're not. So I'm playing Ramondre, but I think Kendre is still a good option. If you have him, you play him. Don't forget about Jamal Williams, who's always around. Like what's gonna happen is he's gonna get those passes and he's gonna catch 5 for 32, and he's gonna get them down in the red zone, and then Jamal's gonna come in if they score, and it's gonna be him or it's gonna be Spencer Rattler getting the touchdown. So anyway, that's but I don't think Kendre's a bad play
through all there is in New England, through all the darkness of the New England season, and Stevenson's poor yards per carry, there's still moments of brightness that this quarterback brings to this offense, and that's I agree with you, Tommy. And it's against Buffalo, they're going to be chasing and trying to move the sticks any way they can.
It might not be Gibbs. I mean, I know there's a lot of back and forth. Well, is this Gibson's week? But every time Gibson has a chance to step forward, like he does something one week, and then guess what? Yeah, I'm not going to fall for the banana in the tailpipe. So
the Balky's talking about you chasing $2 million prizes, but I know there's nothing you're more excited about than your first place KFFSC Consolation League team. And
you rubbing it in now?
I'm curious.
I drafted that team right beside our man here. That was
that okay? So I don't think I made the playoffs in that league either. So I don't. We just got taken.
So no, I chased. We were. I started. I think I started 0-5 in that, or 0-4, and my team got good at the end. But yeah, I was. Anyway, we'll leave
everyone wants.
I'm leading your consolation though, right?
Yes, you're in first place, and everybody wants you. You should consider yourself consoled, Tommy. And everybody wants that comes to the event wants to draft next to Balky. Here at our Super Sunday Sweet 16s that we have coming up, Scott Christian and James Hicks, friends of the show and participants and friends of the league, are asking for their entry back in case Balky for some reason does not show.
Yeah.
You may have to come in his stead if he doesn't show. I don't know.
So I just looked it up. In that league, Tommy, you and I finished with identical 6-5 records. However, you outscored me by about 175 points on the season. So you made the playoffs in that league. I did not.
But it's 6-5. Both you guys should end up in the Gator Bowl. So let me ask you this: Christian Watson and Tank Dell. Christian Watson and Tank Dell. Which one is the start? Tank Dell in Kansas City on Saturday. I kind of feel Tank Dell, but I'm more interested in what you're going to tell us, Tom.
Well, you know what? This is what we're going to do this weekend. You're going to go out with Skank Dale, and I'm going to go out with Christian Watson. It's Christian Watson. He's playing. Look, he's got the New Orleans Saints who give up the deep ball. I think I like Christian Watson this week. I can see one big touchdown, maybe. Hope I won't even curse it. I know there's a Green Bay fan on the on this call with us, so I think this is a really good setup for Christian Watson, and and Tank Dell. Look, he's what you're going to get with Kansas City and Houston is a better pass rush. They got good. They got better last week again because I know Kansas City had been giving up versus the wide receiver. A better pass rush that they showed last week, and I don't see that. Look, it's Nico Collins' team as a wide receiver. I think Christian Watson's at least 2 steps ahead. So
I can buy that. And I'm running into a lot of fantasy players that shake their head. They say, "I'm never drafting a Packer receiver again." Balky would say that's a big mistake. Balky was on another Packer receiver.
I wouldn't say it's a big mistake.
But if I look at that talent with Christian Watson, and I hope everyone says that, because if he continues to slide, or if that is the prevailing draft attitude of the competition next year, Christian Watson will be on all my teams.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point, Ferrell, because I think the narrative next year, and we've seen it this year, when all these guys are healthy at the same time, very difficult to predict who's going to have that big week. I don't, and they have by and large, I know there's been a couple of games here or there, but by and large, Watson has not missed any time, right? Dobbs got suspended. He was in the concussion protocol. So he missed a couple of games. Wicks has been out there the whole time. Jaden Reed's been out there the whole time. Tucker Kraft, look at the ascendance that he's had. So when they are all healthy, yeah, it's tough to predict. I don't know if that happens 2 years in a row. We see a lot of regression to the mean with these injuries. And I'll just say this. I'll finish your point with this. If that, to what you're saying, Ferrell, if that is how everybody is treating Packers receivers next year, then yes, I will be grabbing Dobbs. I will be grabbing Watson if they slide too far, because when their teammates miss time or whatever, all of a sudden these guys go from being drafted as the 50th, 45th receiver off the board to potentially being a top 20 or a top 25 play on any given
and I appreciate your input there. because really all I have to talk about is next year. Carry on with the new question.
So let's add one more. Christian Watson also has his ceiling. We've seen what he can. He is a monster. And to me, that's the answer too. Going back to Tank Dell. Love Tank Dell, but guess what? It's Christian Watson this week.
He's got the higher ceiling and obviously big plays. I mean, and he's not dropping passes. I think he's dropped one pass all year. Yep. He's been phenomenal. Throughout the Niners game, because the Packers really dominated that from the get-go, Watson put up 0.4 that game. He had 4 rushing yards. That was it. But out of those other 4 games since the bye, 150 yards, 67 yards, 114 yards, 56 yards. Hasn't gotten into the end zone, but you can tell how much he is being used. 200-yard games, that's something in the last 5 weeks. That's something a lot of the receivers can't say right now. And you can say it about Watson. It comes on to Watson or Dell this week. I'm with Tommy Herrin. I will join you at Tommy Island and say that it is Watson over Tank Dell. Let's do this. I want to go to Tom Smith. He's been patiently awaiting. He's got a question. Devonta Smith or Khalil Shakir this week. It's Devonta Smith or Khalil Shakir. That's what he is looking at. Devonta Smith is at Washington. Khalil Shakir is and this I want to get into the Amari Cooper side of this too. Khalil Shakir is against the Patriots. Tommy, what's happened to Cooper? And since the trade, at least the last several weeks, why is Shakir being the guy that Josh Allen looks at so much more than Amari Cooper?
Well, I think that, obviously Allen likes to distribute the ball around to a lot of players. And the thing about Shakir, he's always there. He's always around. He's always doing the little stuff. He's always, look, if you need a plumber, call Shakir. If you need a lawyer, call Shakir. If you need somebody to get sweet, call Shakir. He's there. He's picking up a block. So that works well when you got a quarterback who distributes the ball well. And nothing against, look, Amari Cooper's, he's great, but he commands the ball. And when he's not I hate to say this, when he's not the guy, he's not the guy. And that means so he doesn't work well in that situation. So, I think you're going to see a game or so. I mean, maybe I make him, I heard what you guys said earlier about him. Maybe I make him my sleeper for this week. I was going to save it and say later on that, hey, he's my sleeper, but he's not. Look, I think Shakir he's a better fit in that offense and add the chemistry. Remember the back end of last year? Shakir showed out the last four games or so.
Yeah.
They developed that chemistry. It's continued on. And nobody else has stepped forward.
Could you tell us, Balky, like in the last 5 games, how many catches this player has? Or what he's averaging? Probably just to prove Tommy's point of how he comes up at the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely.
And second, to prove Tommy's point, if you want to watch the best Khalil Shakir play ever, the best football player ever, you can go back to his days at Boise State when the quarterback threw a pick and he chased down the interceptor and saved the touchdown with a tackle. And it was one of the most impressive football plays I've ever seen. I love that guy, football player. You got any numbers there, Bo?
I do. I have plenty, actually. I'm going to go all the way back to week 7 because this is how impressive Shakir has been and how consistent he's been. 7 for 65, 9 for 107, 6 for 50, 6 for 58, 8 for 70, 4 for 30, 5 for 106. Last week, 6 for 39, and he's gotten in the end zone 4 times this year, including each of the last 2 weeks as well. He gets the Patriots this week. They don't all have to be spike week players, kids. You can plug in a guy like Khalil Shakir who's going to get you between 15 and 20, and you'll be A-okay with that, knowing that, maybe he doesn't have the 35-point upside and 40-point upside. That's okay. For the record, Tommy, I want to get you on this to answer Tom's question. Would you play Shakir over Devonta Smith this week?
Yeah, I think I would. It's very close. And, I mean, I need to think through that because I do like Devonta Smith. I think it's a Barkley week with Washington and Philly, and one of those wide receivers is going to eat, but it's not going to be both this week because they're not going to leave. They're not going to leave Barkley out this week. And a little backseat. I mean, everybody was expecting last week for Barkley to have, an NFL record week and everything. And And they've done that last few. But guess what? This is a Barkley week. That's the only reason. So
okay. So Devonta Smith has proven that he can contribute fantasy-wise with all the star power around him in Philadelphia and the A.J. Brown at receiver. Now, let's go up to Minnesota. Let's put Devonta Smith up against Jordan Addison, a player that I really don't understand because I didn't have him on any teams. I thought that with Justin Jefferson, it all begins and ends with him. And, who knew that Sam Darnold was going to be this good? I drafted him and played him, but I sure didn't expect this. Your thoughts, Devonta Smith, Jordan Addison.
It's a lane to Jordan Addison. And only one reason, because of the Barkley piece that I just said. I think it's going to be a little Barkley. And, can Devonta Smith do it? Yeah. And hope he gets a solid floor. But it's Addison was big play dependent early in the year. And that's where it was very back and forth. He would have, the touchdowns, but it was on very few targets. He's getting targets the last several weeks, and he's been a part of the offense, and he's been producing. And just watching the game, and for me, it's just watching the game, and they're feeding him. And now he's getting targets, and he's getting touchdowns and big plays.
Hey, Balky, Billy Hollywood has gone off tilt here. I think it goes into your next question that you're going to ask Tommy. This is wild, or is it? You guys figure this one out, because this is Billy Hollywood's going a little wild.
Number one, I don't think it's wild to play.
I think it's wild.
Mayfield over Jackson. Ferrell, I'm a weak man. I say it all the time. I wouldn't be able to do it. Bill Hollywood is a strong, virile individual who he has no qualms.
What kind of strong individual?
Strong, virile individual.
I like that,
Yeah.
Billy.
Yeah.
You got a good scouting report over here, brother.
Yeah, he's
William Hollywood.
He is going to play Baker Mayfield. He thinks he's going to play Mayfield at Dallas over Lamar Jackson tomorrow, who is hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers. So let's unpack this here. I understand why he is doing this. Stephen Rannigan, a guy who has won more money than God playing in the FFPC over the last 10, 15 years or whatever it's been. I talked with him on Tuesday, and he told me that the way this Buccaneers offense is going right now, he thinks it's wheels up for everybody. Mayfield, Evans, Irving, McMillan, Otten, if he plays, which is probably not going to play. So I get it, and you can get caught up into that. That said, what Jackson does with his legs, and what he did last week. I mean, he had 5 touchdowns last week. I know it's the Steelers. I know it's a different week. I don't think I could do it, Tommy. Are you playing Baker Mayfield over Lamar Jackson this week?
I'm not. And just to put this in perspective, I've got Baker on the backside. I've got 6 bullets in the Fantasy Pros. 3 of my teams have Joe Burrow at quarterback. I've got Baker behind 2 of them. I'm playing Burrow. I'm not playing Lamar Jackson. I'm playing Joe Burrow. I'm playing those guys. There's as much as I love Baker Mayfield, I'm not going to overthink that. I would never forgive myself to sit Lamar Jackson on the bench. Even if I'm a Steelers fan, there's no way.
I would say too, like you think Steelers Ravens, that's got to be a low scoring game. Total's at 44.5. The total on that Buccaneers Cowboys game is 48.5. So I mean, yeah, that's a difference, but it's only 4 points. And when you consider the difference in quarterbacks, at least the talent and the production, I still think I'm going with Lamar Jackson here. I don't want.
I'll also add on that game script. Look, what I'll tell you is this. I mean, as much as I want the Steelers to win, it looks like it's a Ravens, regardless of the history where the Ravens don't beat the Steelers. This is one of those where it's just they don't have Georgie Pickens. We don't have Georgie Pickens. It's not a good situation. So.
And the Ravens just fail to close teams out. I mean, it's always close in the fourth quarter every single game. If that's the case, Lamar Jackson's not just going to be sitting there handing it off to Henry. He's going to have to make plays in the fourth quarter of this game. So there's that as well. Let's do this. Paul Teixeira, another former guest of the show. Hi, fellas. With a few injuries, my flex is in flux. This is obviously FFPC tight end premium.
I got it.
He's got Chiga Conquo, he's got Romeo Dobbs, Jalen McMillan, or Kendra Miller. Now, McMillan is a guy that I think is very interesting because he screwed over so many best ball players this year, because now that he's turning it on, all those teams, they didn't advance, they're out, and they're waiting for next year. So, number one, we could talk about McMillan here and why it's taken so long for him to kind of get with it, even after the Chris Godwin injury, which seems like that happened about 7 months ago now. It seems like it was so long ago. But who would you play here? Okonkwo, Dobbs, McMillan, or Kendra Miller? Dobbs and Miller play each other. The Packers hosting the Saints on Monday night. Okonkwo this week, I believe, is that the Colts? I want to say that the Titans are playing. Yeah, the Titans are in Indianapolis, so Okonkwo's taking on the Colts there, and then Jalen McMillan, as we just discussed, Sunday Night Football in Dallas.
So for me, I'm looking at Jalen McMillan and Kendra Miller. I'm probably leaning Kendra Miller, depending on the situation. I mean, now, Kendra Miller is going to get the volume, but it's a strong play to Jalen McMillan as well. So the other two are out. So for me, it's a coin flip for those. I like McMillan coming on. I think he's he was a struggle early on. He proved I think he scored his first week, right? He scored his first week.
Yes, he did. Correct.
Proved he had a nose for the end zone. But then he dropped the ball. He just didn't look like the right part, and now he's starting to develop. He wasn't a 1-for-1 substitution for Godwin, because that wasn't the position. It's not like he was. They groomed him to be that guy, but he also played other positions. I don't think it was that. You add in that Otten came in and was very strong for those couple weeks. Again, I'm going to give him my MVP for those couple of weeks. But now he's catching the ball and he's scoring touchdowns. He already had the nose. So anyway, I'm answering, I'm kind of addressing what you started with, talking about, how he started slow. I think he's there now. For me, I lean Kendra Miller, and then second would be McMillan, and then the other two are out.
I think it comes down to like what kind of fantasy player are you? Because I'm with you. I narrow it down to Miller and McMillan. I actually lean towards McMillan because of the offense, because I'm very excited about the Tampa Bay offense and what they're able to do. The implied point total for the Saints this week by Vegas, it's 42.5, but they're 14-point dogs. So Vegas is telling us they're only going to score 14 points, which is really bad. And then you look at the Buccaneers. I mean, they're 3.5-point favorites in a total of 48. So what are they scoring in that game? Like 27 points. That's like 2 more touchdowns. So yeah, I think I'm going to go with McMillan here over Miller. Ferrell, do you have a dog in this fight?
I really like McMillan, and Tommy, that was great analysis. He's not the physical player that Godwin is, but I'm going to go with McMillan. That's obviously why Billy Hollywood wanted to play Baker in front of Lamar, and
or Mike Evans. Mike Evans might be the reason.
Mike Evans has.
I love Mike Evans.
Mike Evans, you got to fix it. I got to think Billy's overthinking it there a little bit.
Speaking of Bill Hollywood, Ferrell, he posts this as well. That's Roderick Dobson's comment. Last week I played golf over Daniels and got lucky. I believe
he did not get lucky.
I believe on this show last week I said that I would play Jared Goff over Jaden Daniels.
Of course you did. Goff was at home.
And people called me crazy, Ferrell.
Yeah, you're crazy.
Jaden Daniels top 3 this week. What are you doing talking about playing Goff over Daniels?
The reason you
hold on. Yeah. And I said I'd play Goff over Daniels. And you know what I did? What I did? I played Daniels over Goff.
No, you didn't.
I couldn't do it. Like I said, I'm a weak guy. I played Daniels over Goff, and I was so ticked off on it. Didn't cost me anything big, but we'll find out. So
that was a 20-point difference, I do believe, in scoring.
It was huge. And this is a message to all of you bullies that hang out on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour YouTube and just tell me I'm crazy. Well, I listened to you, and now I'm paying the price for it. Never again. I make a call on this show. I'm going with that call. I don't care what anybody else says.
Oh, yes, damn straight, Balky. You know. Okay, hey, Tommy Island, make a call on this. Calvin Ridley or bust, baby. I've been a believer that if you have a number one receiver, as long as the quarterback can grip a ball and fling it, I'm going to play that number one receiver. You playing Calvin Ridley this week?
Hell yes. Look, you're playing him all day. I think he's reestablished a very, very safe floor since D-Hop's left. I mean, I think he had one slippage week, but he's had double digit weeks. We already know what he can do. We already know his ceiling's really high. We've seen those, and we've seen when he goes. And I think the second week when Rudolph played, he had one of those weeks where he caught like 10 passes and went for like 25 fantasy points. So for me, you got to play him. He's at minimum a wide receiver 3 who can arguably with Rudolph coming in can be a wide receiver 2 and with the potential to be a wide receiver 1.
You love it.
And you got 2 weeks of what does he have left? He's got the Colts and Jacksonville left.
How sweet it is.
Giddy up.
Mm-hmm.
I just did look that up, Ferrell. The Goff versus Daniels thing from last week. Not only were you dead on that it was a 20-point difference, that's how many places it cost me in the KFFSC Main Event Championship round. I would be 20 places higher right now if I would have just listened to my own God bless it advice. And
that was the easy. We were in agreement, and we just pounded on that last week, and we went on. I mean, that was the easiest question. Yeah.
I don't have one left in the KFFC. I'm in the consolation, so just remember that. Y'all rubbing that into me?
No, we're not rubbing it. We're absolutely not.
I'll have more entries next week.
Anytime we can keep Tommy Herrin out of the championship round of anything, we count our lucky stars because it just doesn't happen. It just does not happen. Let's do a couple of emails here for you, Tommy. First one is from Chuck in Chaumont, New York. Chaumont? I don't know. What's up, Tommy? How do you think Hollywood Brown does on Saturday afternoon? Thank you. And thank you, Chuck, for the email. Hollywood Brown activated off IR. Can't imagine that he's going to get a ton of snaps. He's going to figure in to the game plan, but I don't know, man. I mean, does this take away from Kelsey? Does it take away from Hopkins? What's Brown's effect going to be in this game?
I don't think. I think he's another piece in the whole puzzle. I mean, I don't think it takes away from any of the other. I mean, we're talking about how they distribute. You're talking about players like Noah Gray. Maybe Noah Gray catches 2 less passes. Maybe Justin Watson doesn't catch a pass. I mean, those are the people. It's going to be Kelsey's going to catch some passes. Worthy's going to get his whatever minimal 4 touches that he gets that he should be getting more of. D-Hop, what is he going to get? 5 to 7 targets. I mean, I mean, this could be a Pacheco bounce back week.
Yes.
The other thing too is consider that Mahomes is hobbling around on that high ankle sprain too, or what they're telling us is a high ankle sprain. I can't imagine that Brown's speed is going to be exploited this game because the ball is going to get out of Mahomes' hands so fast tomorrow. I don't see him having a big impact on the game, and as a result, not having a big impact on the numbers for Kelsey and Hopkins. And so on and so forth. One more email here for you. Andrew in Worthington, Ohio. Happy holidays. Is Patrick Taylor anything more than a desperation start this weekend, Tommy? That is Andrew in Worthington, Ohio. This is like their, 19th, 20th string running back. The Niners running back is now officially the spinal tap drummer of the NFL and fantasy football this year. It's insane. Patrick Taylor is going to be the starter. Patrick Taylor for the 49ers is battling the Miami Dolphins in South Beach this week in the late window. How do you feel about Taylor in week 16, man?
This is a perfect question. I've actually got a situation where I've and this is one that's in the FantasyPros Championship, one of my 6 bullets, and I lost Dobbins. I've got Bijan. I lost Dobbins. I lost Chubb, and have been making do at number 2 running back. I'm considering rolling Patrick Taylor out, and I'm good with it because whoever's been the number 1, Shanahan, when he goes with the number 1, he goes with the number 1. He doesn't do the running back by committee. He just runs with it. So if that's him, he's good for a good 10 points with the potential to do a little better than that. And if he gets in the end zone, he's got a 15 point. Abonaconda's there, but are they really going to put Abonaconda and give him the ball if he gets the hot hand? I guess, but
that'd be the only way.
Patrick Taylor is the next guy up. Everybody's done it so far. 5 running backs, and every one of them is produced.
If you have to buy into a front office that can put together a group of running backs, here's where you should buy in, and just say, okay, I'll trust these guys because they haven't been wrong yet.
Yeah, you hold your nose and put them in the lineup and go.
I am fresh out of emails, Ferrell. We have one final question, though, for Tommy.
Oh, help us out, brother. Help us out. We need a sleeper, and you've given us some great ones already. We need one more that we haven't talked about. And then who is that guy? We all shoot ourselves in the foot. Balky with benching golf. Bill Hollywood talking about putting Lamar on the bench. We all shoot ourselves in the foot, but who is that guy that's going to make everyone look like they shot themselves in the foot? He's going to be on your bench because you're not playing him. Other FFPC players will make that mistake.
So 2 things. First of all, you already my sleeper is Amari Cooper. I'm joking because of what I said earlier. Actually, you already said my sleeper earlier. It's Jacoby Myers. It's Jack Myers. Put him in with Broccoli Bowers. And I'm playing my best Fantasy Pros team. I've got them both in my lineup, and I'm rolling it. And great matchup. And what Devontae Adams did last week. Devontae Adams blew. I mean, I can just place. If I can place Jacoby Myers in that position, that same situation, just put a different jersey on him, and I would be very happy. I also would love to see Neighbors, McBride, Gibbs, Chuba blow up. Those are my guys that I think are going to blow up this week. But my disappointments, and I've got two of these guys, but I got 3 of them that I'm going to tell you. Juwan Jennings, I think going against Miami, he's arguably a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 range. I can see him having a dud this week. Jerry Jeudy for obvious reasons because of DTR, and then Najee Harris, which I know that's kind of one that he's is he in everybody's lineup? Maybe not, but I'm benching him. I'm not playing him. But there's a lot of people that are going to probably be playing him because it's not like running backs that deep this year. So
it is not.
Those are the ones that I'm staying away from.
Yeah,
I love that.
Makes perfect sense to me.
A tremendous answer.
And just regarding the Harris thing, Warren is really starting to come into his own.
I totally agree.
He's being more involved in that offense at the expense of Najee Harris. We will never do anything on this show to be at the expense of having the great Tommy Island on this program. Tommy Herrin, ladies and gentlemen, the 12-time FFPC League winner, a guy who is searching for a pair of 7-figure grand prizes this year in the FFPC, and a guy I can't wait to hang out with again in Louisville very soon. Tommy, thank you so much. We will continue to follow you on the X at Tommy Island 69. Be good. Hopefully the ball bounces your way in week 16, and a very Merry Christmas to you and yours.
You too.
Super Sunday weekend, Tommy Island. I got something we're going to add to that liquor shelf back there. So you get on over.
There we go. Thank you, Tommy. Talk to you soon.
Appreciate you, gentlemen. Take care. Happy holidays. Take care.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. Tommy Herrin, ladies and gentlemen, hopping aboard tonight on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Always good to hang out with him, talk with him.
What a great year he's having.
He is, and he would tell you he is not, because he is not. He's in the championship round of the Fantasy Pros Championship of the FFPC Main Event. but not of the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship
He
main
was-
event, which is the most desirable trophy that you want to get.
He was coming and scouting it out last year, and he was having a very good time. And he used the league to prep for his drafting in the FFPC. And I think he will. I think he's coming Super Sunday, and I think he will also expand his territory with us. But doesn't matter how much he does. If he does a little or a lot, you always know that Tommy Allen is in the room, and he's always high energy and a pleasure to be around for everybody there.
I do remember him in between drafts after we had drafted Saturday morning together. He was in an FFPC main event draft online before he drafted again Saturday afternoon in Kentucky. So he was all business. That had a great time. And I had a great time with him too. Look forward to doing that again sometime real soon. Ferrell, let's get to some emails here.
Okay.
Joe in Midland, Texas. How crazy am I for thinking about starting Brenton Strange over Travis Kelce this week? Thanks, guys. That is Joe in Midland, Texas. Now, Farrah, far be it from me to call anybody crazy on this show, especially after you're talking about starting a guy who caught 11 passes for 73 yards last week after Evan Engram went down. This is a guy that, you think about Permar. Permar's been talking about Brenton Strange since like week 5, it seems like, on this show. He showed out. We know that there are a lot of talented players, pass catchers on Kansas City's team. But the thing is, this week, I think it's going to be a huge Kelce week. I think he is going to be featured by Mahomes, getting the ball out over and over again. This could be like a 13, 14 catch performance from Kelce. You're not crazy to think about starting Strange over Kelce. I wouldn't do it, though. I'm playing Kelce here.
Nah, you're a little crazy there, brother. Let's just not do that. Let's put Travis Kelce out there.
Yeah,
You got those notions of playing Brenton Strange. You just got to shake it off.
Nice. I see what you did there. Took me a little bit. Yes. Welcome to New York, Bulky. No, I'm just kidding. Jaden Daniels or Baker Mayfield is the next question here that we have. This is from who is this? John, Mankato, Minnesota. Would you guys bench Jaden Daniels against the Eagles in favor of Baker Mayfield at Dallas? So we had this question earlier with Mayfield versus Lamar Jackson. Jaden Daniels is really good. He's not Lamar Jackson. Ferrell, would you be doing it then? Would you be playing Mayfield over Jaden Daniels?
Oh, what a great matchup. What a great combo of quarterbacks to have on your team. Great respect for Baker Mayfield. One of the big what I saw him do with his legs in the last game, fascinating. He's really got I'd start Daniels. But I'm biased here, Balky, and I'll better throw this back to you because I've never started Baker Mayfield and got positive scoring out of it. So I'm biased because I feel like, I'll start Baker Mayfield. Then I'm telling the emailer that it's going to be a disaster. So I'm just going to say Daniels.
I would say Daniels as well. I think the game script for that Eagles game, I think, is going to work in Daniels' favor. He is still running a lot. I know I've talked about how much I love the Buccaneers, and I feel like every single time we bring up somebody versus Mayfield, I'm picking the other guy. I think Mayfield's going to have a good week. I have him in a couple of leagues, and in those leagues, I'm starting him for sure this week. So I think he's going to be good. I just think Daniels is going to be a little bit better.
The only thing that I got right last week was Rachaad White, by the way. So, but Baker Mayfield, my compliment and ode to Baker Mayfield is this: I want to draft a lot of Bucks next year.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. There's people nervous about it. When Dave Canales decided to leave the OC job in Tampa for the head coaching job in Carolina. And I can't remember if it was Scott Barrett or Theo Greminger, somebody was talking about it this week. Like, you'd make the argument the Buccaneers offense has been better and more explosive since Canales left and Liam Cohen has taken over play calling duties. So there is something there. And if they keep that together, if they keep the band back together in 2025, I'm with you, Ferrell, drafting a lot of Buccaneers. Jerome Ford or Brian Robinson? This is Steve in Southfield, Michigan's question. Happy championship round, fellas. Is Jerome Ford's defensive matchup enough for me to play him over Brian Robinson versus that tough Philly rush D? Merry Christmas, guys. That is Steve in Southfield, Michigan. This is interesting, Ferrell, because both of these guys should get a lot of volume. But Ford is going against the much more porous offense or defense. I beg your pardon. I would actually lean Ford here. I would play Ford over Robinson.
it's difficult for me to want to do anything with that team. But yes, Ford over Robinson here. And this is the one that I would probably change back to Robinson at 12:45.
Yes, thank you for reminding me of that. One of my finer moments from 2024. Final
Hey,
email.
Mr. Bakes-a-lot has a player.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah, he's got a question.
Yeah.
And I want to answer that question because I want to help Bakes out a little bit, best I can. But it's a player who we haven't mentioned on the show. If we have mentioned him, it's been in some sort of derision. Ray McLeod and Christian Watson would be my answer. Balky, you might wish to ask the question.
Yeah, so he has to start two of these players. They're all receivers. It's going to be Ray McLeod at home against the Giants. Mac Hollins, who is that game at the Patriots or is that in Buffalo this week?
Not sure.
Okay, it may not matter for how I'm going to answer this question anyway. But Mac Hollins is another choice. Kendrick Bourne against Buffalo or Christian Watson at home against New Orleans. I am going to say Watson here for sure. And I can't really make a good case for Hollins. I definitely can't make, the case for Bourne is, New England's going to be down. They're going to be throwing a ton. But I think Ray McLeod, even though it's Penix, I'm still kind of intrigued of what that could be. So if you're looking for maybe somewhat of a floor, then maybe it's Bourne and Watson. But I like to play fantasy football and have fun with it. So give me McLeod and Watson here. Is that what you said, Watson and McLeod?
Yeah, and McLeod is here's a comment about checkdowns. McLeod is more than that, and he's proven that this year. I checked it the other day. Hell, he's got more yards than Deebo Samuel this year. And you write in Deebo Samuel every week. I think that he'll be part of where this young quarterback is going. And I think they probably worked closely together in camp and throughout the season. And yeah, Ray's my guy here.
I want to leave everybody with this final email here from Tim in Columbia, South Carolina. Dear Ferrell and Balky, with the quarterback change in Cleveland, is DK Metcalf the guy I have to play over Jerry Jeudy now? DK Metcalf going up against the Minnesota Vikings this week. And obviously Jerry Jeudy catching passes from Dorian Thompson-Robinson is a far cry from catching passes from Jameis Winston. So if those are your two choices, if it's Metcalf and if it, even with Metcalf kind of taking a back seat to Jackson Smith and Jigba this season, at least the second half of the season, I think he's a better play than Jeudy this week, who is is he leading the NFL in receiving yardage right now, Farrell? If he's not leading, he's got to be top three.
Getting close, yeah.
I'm saying Metcalf over Jeudy. What say you?
Metcalf is due to have a game. Now, what does that mean? A player of that caliber, you just can't see him stringing consistent poor games, fantasy games together. I don't know if they've been poor NFL games. I haven't got to watch Seattle as much as I would like, but his production is trailing, and you just don't expect to see that. So I don't think it's much of a gamble to go with Metcalf because that catch radius, that speed, that strength, the separation, it's all still there with that player.
I want to thank you for all your work throughout the season. We're going to do this again next week as well. But Ferrell, thank you so much for hopping aboard. KFFSC.com. The Super Sunday is what you want to check out there. Leagues filling up, and you definitely want to be drafting in person and hanging out for the Super Bowl party. Can we say Super Bowl party? I think we can. We think we can get away with that on a podcast. But you can watch the Super Bowl live at Caesars in Southern Indiana. That is going to be a fantastic party, as always. Thank you so much, my friend. Warm wishes go to you and yours, and a very Merry Christmas to you coming up this Wednesday as well. We'll do this show again on Friday.
Thank you, sir. See you then.
That is Ferrell Elliott, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, hopping aboard to keep me company and teach me some stuff and just being a guy that we can rap with and hang out with on Friday nights. We love it. Mr. Bakes-a-lot also says, thanks, homies. Ferrell is the GOAT. Do I have to be in Kentucky to join league? Oh, my friend, you do not. The KFFSC used to just be a Kentucky thing, and then it turned into a regional thing, and then it turned into a national thing. Now it's an international thing. So, yeah, people are coming in from all over. You can either draft live or draft live in person or online. But we always encourage you to come to Kentucky a couple weeks before you head out to Vegas for sure. Mr. Bakes a lot. It is so much more fun, as Tommy Herrin can tell you after he had his first KFFSC experience last year. I want to thank Tommy Herrin for coming on. Ferrell Elliott, the FFPC, Rob Bryson, of course, each and every one of you. We will be back next Friday, December 27th at 10 p.m. Eastern time for our final show of 2024 and a preview of Week 17, where all the magic happens. In case you missed this past week's RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, I talked to former $500,000 champion Stephen Rannigan on the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown this past Tuesday. You can watch it on any of the FFPC socials or listen to it on the RotoViz podcast feed as well. Lowdown will be back not Tuesday because it's Christmas Eve. So I've moved the show to next Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. 7-time FFPC League winner Rob Linkowski will join me. So you get 2 shows on Friday. You get me and Rob coming up at 8 o'clock, and then Ferrell and I at 10 o'clock that night. So that'll be a lot of fun. In case you missed last night's High Stakes Fantasy Football show on the Better Sports Network, Doug Orth from Fantasy Points and Fantasy Football Today co-hosted with me. Great 2 hours of knowledge and fun that we had. You can watch that back again on any of the FFPC socials or the Better Sports Network socials, Better Sports Network YouTube as well. The HSFF show will be back this coming Thursday, the 26th. Roto Ballers Ryan Goodman will co-host with me as we do the final Thursday night football pregame show of the season. I think it's the Bears next week, and I can't remember the other team. Help me out in the chat room who the Bears are playing. I know it's the Bears on Thursday Night Football. It's the Seahawks and Bears. So we will go for 2 hours and lead you almost all the way up till halftime of that game on Thursday. So that's what's going on there. Play the FFPC Weekly Challenge. Play the FFPC Playoff Challenge. You can register now at myffpc.com. Remember, $35 can get you in the running for $100,000. $200 gets you in the running for $500,000 in the FFPC Playoff Challenge. Get your teams early because the lineups will lock 3 hours sooner than they did last year. I know a lot of you like to wait till the last minute. The last minute has been moved up a good 3.5 hours this year. So make sure you're taking care of that right now at myffpc.com. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live. Oinker says good night. And of course, I will tell you that your holiday weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
One other thing I want to bring up before we sign off tonight. I know 2024 may have not been the easiest year for many of you for different reasons. It was not easy for Ferrell. It was not easy for me, as we both lost loved ones this past year. It will be weird and special this year as we celebrate the holidays. Be thankful for what you have. Celebrate with friends. Celebrate with family, and tell the people closest to you that you love them, and celebrate Christmas the best way you can. Hopefully the ball bounces your way in Week 16. Thanks for watching, everybody. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.